Apple's market cap closed at around $3 trillion for the first time since August after its shares climbed 2% on Tuesday and a total of 48% so far this year. That's despite the company reducing its total share count through buybacks, despite slowing growth, but also supply problems in markets such as China. The $3 trillion milestone is a sign of durability, with investors viewing the company as a fortress with significant cash flow, but also globally popular products. Apple is, though, warning that it does not expect annual revenue growth in its all-important December quarter. Let's get more on this now, and let's try and understand a bit more of what's happening with Naeem Aslam in London. He is Chief Investment Officer at Zay Capital Markets. Thank you for joining us today. Naeem, what's behind this astonishing rally we've seen this year in Apple's stock price, but also in the tech sector in general?
Sure. Thanks for having me as always. Look, I think there are a number of factors. Number one was remember the tech sector was highly sensitive to interest rates, right? Because the US interest rates were on the move and they were moving higher and higher and higher. We've seen the Federal Reserve hiking them up, but now we are at a stage where inflation has come a lot more closer to the Federal Reserve's target. Traders believe that, okay, now is the time that we will see perhaps towards the end of Q1 or beginning of Q2 an interest rate by the Federal Reserve. So because of that optimism among investors and traders, and by the way, they are certainly not buying what the Federal Reserve is saying in relation to the Federal Reserve, or they're saying that we are still going to keep the interest rate higher for longer. So the traders believe that, okay, now is a good time that the sector which was massively impacted because of a higher interest rate could actually see a good rally. And then if you see Nasdaq, if you see the overall tech sector, it has seen incredible amount of rally.
Naeem, in the aftermath of the pandemic, we've been discussing a lot, even on this program, about supply chain disruptions, but also bottlenecks, especially for semiconductors, very crucial in this sector. What's the current status? I mean, were there any significant changes to how companies, and Apple in particular, manage their supply chains? Is Apple looking at other countries, such as India, for instance?
Well, I think, look, they started to diversify a long time ago in relation to their supply production and where the main headquarters were. And yes, now successfully they have diversified to a larger extent. But I think I wanted to discuss something which you touched right towards the end of your morning comments, which was okay. The company is not so much optimistic in relation to its growth going in towards the end of this particular quarter, or even going next year as well. I think yes, the stock has touched all-time high, and then the market cap and all of that. But what is quite important in relation to Apple is that we are going to see a period of stagnation in relation to its valuation, in relation to its product, because the consumers are still very much pushed to the corner in terms of how much they are going to invest. And more importantly, the relationship with China, that market is incredibly important.
Right. We'll see what all of that will mean for the stock. Naeem Aslam, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And now let's go to other top stories from around the world. US jobs openings have fallen to their lowest level in more than 2 years, indicating that the labor market was easing in the face of higher interest rates. Businesses advertised 8.7 million job vacancies in October, down from 9.4 million in the previous month. The data sparked a rally in government debt as traders bet that the US Federal Reserve will start cutting rates sooner than expected. Australia's economic growth has unexpectedly slowed in the third quarter as higher interest rates weigh on consumer spending and exports. GDP expanded 0.2% from the previous quarter, failing to meet analysts' estimates. The Reserve Bank of Australia expects a further slowdown in the next quarter as a result of its 425 basis points rate hikes. And Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup XAI has filed with the SEC to raise up to $1 billion in an equity offering. The company has already raised $134.7 million from 4 investors. The AI startup announced in July it seeks to answer almost any question with a bit of wit, planning to compete with OpenAI's ChatGPT.